I think my juices flow all the time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know as much as I know.
Right now, we've been able to stuff the stuff.
The curse is broken. NC State fans, finally. Finally.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving.
I mean, that's a triple play.
The Wolfpack ain't for soft. It ain't for soft people.
Welcome back to another edition of Pack Therapy. NC State, look, they're running hot. Jarkel Joyner looks like a really good, looks all ACC to me, Scott Wood. Scott Wood, Wolfpack great, joining me as always. And a special guest this week, we've got Levi Watkins, assistant coach, former NC State player, and now, of course, back home here in Raleigh. Levi, welcome to Pack Therapy.
Thanks for the invite. Excited to be on with you guys this morning.
All right, so how much credit do you want me to give you for all of this? Because you know how I feel about your tremendous work this season.
Well, I've known Coach Keats for a long time, and since I was a teenager, I've seen him work his magic. So I'm not surprised about the season that we've had. When I was in high school, he convinced a lot of really talented players to go to a military school in the middle of nowhere in Virginia. I'm talking about NBA players. So I've seen him do that since I was young, and then obviously going to Louisville, win the national championship, and then Wilmington was awful before he got there, and they won the league 3 years in a row. So I'm not shocked. We signed some really good players in the spring in the transfer portal. Chakavion came back, and some other talented returners. So I really like our group, man. They've been a fun group to be around. Chemistry is really good. They really like each other, and no separate agenda. Everybody just wants to win. So it's been fun.
Levi Watkins, you've been here as a player when the program has been successful. You've been here. That was Herb Sendek. You were back as an assistant under Mark Gottfried. You know, Scott was a player then. You guys make the tournament, make the Sweet 16. So you know what this place can be. You come back now this time. What was your thought process on how to get the program back to that success level? Because that's all you've experienced here.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I knew it wouldn't be too hard. I mean, obviously it's the ACC. You got a lot of good coaches, a lot of good players, but with the change in the rules where you don't have to sit out transferring, I knew we would have a chance. You know, obviously, again, we had to hit the portal really hard when I first got here, and I think we went 4 for 4. You know, with Jarkel, obviously DJ, and obviously Jack Clark and Dusan. Like we really liked those 4 guys when we watched them on film. Obviously, I coached Jarkel, so I knew him very well. I knew what he would do in the Wolfpack jersey. So you can flip it really quick now with the new rules. It's not like you get a guy that got to sit out and then they're ready for him that second year. But it really doesn't shock me. I really like the group. Again, what we did in the spring was really good. And then obviously we went to the Bahamas in the summertime. That was huge for us. Just getting those 10 extra practices, actually competing against, I mean, obviously it was an ACC level competition, but to get the guys together and really compete with each other, it really helped us. I could go back through my career. Almost every year that we went on a foreign trip, we went to the NCAA tournament, knock on wood. Hopefully that continues to go, but we've always had good years after going on a foreign trip. And shout out to the administration for allowing us and coming up with the funds for us to do that. I think that really helped us this year.
That long silence means it's your turn to talk, Scott Wood.
Oh, you want me to talk? No. My only thing is, so with Jarkel, do you notice anything different from when he was at Ole Miss to NC State? Because obviously I didn't get to watch as much of him at Ole Miss, but even this year, I mean, in my eyes, it's co-MVP with him and T. And honestly, if you ask my honest opinion, I think he's also your engine that makes this team go. Do you see anything different there, or has it just been the same Jarkel that you've always known?
It's really the same Jarkel I've always known. You know, this is my 4th year coaching. We set out, we transferred to us from Cal State Bakersfield. I think the style of play is better for him. We wanted to play fast at Ole Miss, but we play much faster here, and we you know the way we turn people over, and he's so quick, and he's always been really good on defense. I just think the style is a little bit better for him, but he's always been this kind of guy. I remember when I first got to Ole Miss, He was at Cal State Bakersfield. Everywhere I went, like the impact he had on the community right there in Oxford. Everywhere I went, there's like, you got to bring Jarkel Joyner back. You got to bring, I mean, literally go to the barbershop, the two grocery stores that we had in Oxford. Anywhere I went, my son's rec league game, you got to bring Jarkel back. So I knew he had to be special. Then once I started coaching him, obviously I saw it right away. He sat out his first year, and he was like my Michael Jordan on the scout team. I had about half the scouts when he was sitting out, and he was every good player in the SEC. And that's when I told Coach David, I said, yeah, we got one right here.
So again, sorry, Joe, to piggyback off that, you know, it's hard, I feel like nowadays, to figure out what you're going to get out of a player. Obviously, you being with Jarkel, and the big piece to this is bringing 3 other guys with Jarkel in. Kind of talk about, you know, the character of it, because I feel like you also got 4 guys that, you know, a lot of people may not know. I am lucky enough to have certain access. You got 4 great kids that, you know, have a good head on their shoulders. They're here for the right reasons. Kind of talk about how you guys got to know them about that when you only, you know, have so many interactions leading up to them getting on campus.
Yeah. You just got to kind of do your homework. I mean, like I said, Jarkel was easy because I coached him, and then DJ. I mean, he was a special player coming out of high school, and just talked to anybody who had any interaction with him once he entered the portal. And then even when he came on his visit, his personality was like unreal. Just like he's a gentle giant, and he's just good with people. And I think that's something important. Jack Clark is one of the nicest guys in the world. He probably was our best player in the Bahamas. I mean, he was unbelievable in the Bahamas. I hate that he got hurt, but he's kind of getting back into his niche. And then Dusan he's just a warrior. You know, he's one of those guys. If us 3 and we pick up 2 people to go play a pickup game somewhere, anywhere, he's the kind of guy you want with them. And he's really the only guy that I've seen that could somewhat guard DJ. You know, no one in the games can, but these guys were battling the whole summer and fall and all the way through till he got hurt. And you know, I'm hoping that, you know, Dusan, he's obviously going to work his butt off to try to get back. And but those 4 guys were really good. And then to Cravion coming back, even though he went on a nationwide tour, working out with all these NBA teams, he just as humble as anyone, and he just loves NC State. You know, he just loves it. He loves being a student athlete, and he's been good. Everybody was really welcoming. Even the guys from last year, they just wanted to experience winning. You know, and last year was tough for everybody. Even for me, I wasn't here, but as an NC State alum, it was tough for me too. And they just all were open arms, just soaking up everything like a sponge. So it's been good, and still we got 3 regular season games left, and we want to finish out strong. Try to hopefully get a double bye and see what we can do in the ACC tournament. I think there's about 5 or 6 teams that could win it. You know, it's just very, very balanced at the top. So we're looking forward to the opportunities. Obviously got a big one tonight, and then senior night on Saturday.
Levi, I'm wondering, one thing that Scott and I have talked about has been this group. They just seem to play. You know, you get down 6 to Carolina, the second half, you've been at State, you know how the place can get. Players just kept going. Same thing, even in the loss to Syracuse. It was, all right, we're down a couple possessions. We're just going to keep going. The Miami win at home, I thought, was that way. The Wake Forest game on the road was that way. When did you and I've talked to Kevin about this, but just when did you kind of notice that this group, they really just focus and they play? They don't seem to care about anything else that's going on, even within a game. They just focus and lock in.
Yeah, I think they really understand that this is a game of runs, and then we're so talented offensively. Like we could just go on a 12-15-0 run like it's nothing. You know, there's certain teams in the country that can't do that, but we can do it. It's very similar to Scott Wood's group. You know, my last 2 years before I left to go to Buffalo, like that team, they never felt like they were out of the game, regardless of how much they were down, because at any given moment we could just go off. And that run, you know, especially the individual run Jarkel had, it was like perfect timing. But we've done it so many times. I mean, you can just go through the whole season. where we've gone on 15-2, 13-0 runs. So our guys they know, like I said, it's a game of runs. You're going to have some adversity, a bad call here, or might have missed a wide open shot we're going to have here, but they always believe. And that's something good teams have. And I'm glad that they've really adapted that concept, and it's going to help us going forward.
One thing that Kevin said after the Carolina game was maybe you were giving Terquavion the needle a little bit, making sure that he knew that you had to win one of these against Carolina.
Yeah, I did tell him that. I was like, look, if obviously I hope he's a lottery pick coming up here in June. I was like, this could be your last opportunity to play the Tigers. I don't know if we're going to play him in the ACC tournament or not. And I told him, like, your legacy won't look good if you hadn't beat them. So I was for 2 days. I was on him about that. I had Ernest Ross was simulating Leaky Black, and Ernest Ross was all over him for 2 days. So shout out to Ernest for that. And but we got the win, and immediately as soon as the whistle went, T pointed at me, looked at me like, I'm coming back to Raleigh. So that was pretty fun.
Scott's about to yell at me, but I'm going to bring up a bad memory. Your team in 2003 is really the last one that had a chance to win this thing at the ACC championship. It's going to be in Greensboro again. A is how many days go by when you don't think about stupid Reddick making all those threes,
Man.
and B, what do you think it would mean for NC State that, they're going to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the 83 team, and they've been there in practice? I'm sure you've been able to interact with them. But what would it mean, to go to Greensboro, pull off another run, and close the deal for you in particular, since your group really was so close to doing it?
It would be great. It's funny, we had the 83 team here yesterday at practice, and they spoke afterwards. And up in our practice facility, we only have the ACC championship banners, and then obviously the 2 national championship banners. And every time I look and see that we haven't had one in a long time, it just reminds me of that game. I mean, we were up, was like 15 with like 10 minutes left, and JJ as a freshman kind of went off. And I think, man, it really should be a banner up there for that season. And obviously we were in the championship game three times out of my 4 years. So it hurts that we don't have one of those up there. Obviously we had a really good group, but I'm looking forward to Greensboro. I really, like I said earlier, I think there's 5 or 6 teams in this league that could win it. And you just got to get hot at the right time. And I think we're trending that way. Our guys are working and very focused right now. So hopefully, obviously we got to finish out these 3 regular season games, but I'm looking forward to Greensboro. That was when I first got here. We heard about it all the time when we were getting recruited in my class, and when it was in Greensboro my freshman year, and I couldn't believe the atmosphere. It's just, you don't see. It's by far, I'm biased, but it's by far the best conference tournament, just especially when it's in Greensboro, because everybody's got 4 Carolina schools, and especially back then it was only 9, and everybody was close. So it's just, it feels, the environment Scott played in, obviously. It almost feels better than the NCAA tournament. Just the feeling. Obviously, the NCAA tournament is more important because you win the national championship, but it's just something that's special and something that's a real privilege for coaches and players that are in our league.
All right, Scott, now that I got the bad part out of the way, you want to be the good cop and close this out the right way?
Yeah, honestly, I think we should have a banner of how many times I beat him on the short court. That would be a good one to put up there. But to kind of get off the negative part of it, I could tell. I was lucky enough to sit behind the bench for the Carolina game, and then when Jarkel went on his run, I could see kind of the emotion in their face. What did it feel like to kind of see the atmosphere kind of back where what me and you have always, kind of had, and see these guys kind of knock off the rival that, obviously the banter going back and forth and everything else? Kind of explain what that felt like for you as a coach to come back in your first year, obviously see a kid that, you've kind of been with for a long time, and a bunch of kids that had a really rough time last year finally kind of take that step and knock them off.
I was very, obviously we're still doing the course of the game, but I was happy to hear how loud it was in there. It hadn't been that loud in there in a long time. Even even I don't know if it got that loud even when you were there. You know, I kind of remember when I played, we were down 18 to Wake Forest, and we came back and won, and it was like electric in there. That's one of the loudest times I remember it. But I just think back to our early, you know, Precy, you and I talk about it all the time, and a big part of why you and I came to NC State was the fans. I mean, you're from Indiana where they had a lot of fans at your high school games, so you definitely couldn't pick a college where there was no people there, you know. So, and I was growing up, I always liked the ACC. I was a Maryland Terps fan, obviously, and I wanted to play in this league. But even when I came on my visits here, I saw we played Georgia Tech and football was unbelievable attendance. You know, the tailgating was great, and this looking up the attendance numbers, like, man, they, regardless of the record, they always had people in the stands. So I was just happy that, you know, and these guys, they worked for it. It wasn't, you know, no one knew outside of our circle exactly what we were going to have this year. And, you know, as we just kept winning, they just more and more people came in. So at that moment when it was just like, you couldn't even hear the person next to you. I don't even know if people could hear Coach Keats in the huddle. It was like, man, this is what it's about, you know? And, so I was just happy for the guys that they can experience that, because for 12 years I experienced it. Even when we didn't have great records, a year here or there was always people in the stands. So just shout out to Wolfpack Nation for that. We definitely need you. You know, we're the biggest school in the state. We got a lot of alumni, a lot of very successful people, and we need them in the stands. It definitely helps us. That once that moment happened, I was like, we're not losing this game. You know, it's just that we weren't losing the game. So that was fun. So excited about that.
All right, you don't want me to give you credit, and that's fine. I think Kevin Keats has a really good case to be the coach of the year this year in the ACC. You, Kareem, Joel, you've done a great job this year. But I got to tell you, man, without Jarkel Joyner, this season doesn't look like it does. There is no Jarkel Joyner without Levi Watkins. So I'm giving you a little bit of a round of applause and some credit here. I know you don't want it, but you deserve some of it. And I know you want to say it's the boss, but I want to give you a little bit of love here, Levi, because I just think it's important to have, you know, a player back on the staff. I thought that was one of the mistakes that Kevin made earlier in his tenure. So he brings you back, and look what happens. Voila. Sometimes it is that easy. So job well done this year. And I know after being in Buffalo, and Tempe's not bad, but and Oxford, come on. I know Monica. I know the real state grad of the family is the one that's most happy.
Yeah,
being back in Raleigh.
Yeah, it's been fun for the family, just because she was born and raised here, so they're at the games, and I have to spend a lot of extra money for extra tickets for all the but it's been fun. We've only lost one game at home, and hopefully can keep that going. But it's been good. I'm glad to be back. This is a special place as always. I mean, all of us that played here, it's amazing how many former players come back and live here. And even when I was coming out, I had a lot of options of school I wanted to go to, but I'm not going to go somewhere that I wouldn't want to come back one day. So it's been fun, and we're still got a lot of chapters left in this book for this season, and excited to see what happens in the next couple of weeks.
I can't let you go without acknowledging at least that you said you were a Maryland fan.
I was. I mean, I was from Maryland, so I went to the Terps games as a high schooler, but I wasn't going.
Okay.
For Gary Williams, I saw him cussing out all the coaches and players 24/7. So even though I saw a lot of good games in cold field, yeah. but I was going to play in the ACC for sure. So why not just go 4 hours up the road? So it's been good.
Have you had a chance to keep up with any of your former teammates or Herb Sendek? He's having a great year out at Santa Clara this year.
Yeah, it's actually Coach Sendek's birthday today. He was him, my mother-in-law, and my sister-in-law all were born on the same day, so I could never forget his birthday. And we all talked. Ilion was actually Eftimov was at the Carolina game, and he traveled from all the way overseas to come, and we're all close. I mean, we're all successful. You talk about chemistry, like our group, we had good players, but we had really good chemistry. Like we fought like crazy within the lines, and then we were best friends off the court. And I had so many, and we still talk all the time. We still take jabs at each other. Right now, we're trying to figure out who's going to have the best son. we all have at least one son, so we're sending training videos. Look at my son here. Look at my son there. So now and figure out who's going to carry the legacy and come to NC State. So it's been fun just to be around those guys, and then a lot more former players have come back to games this year. And Scott can kind of attest to that. And it's just a big family. This is why we picked this school. For me, it was a long time ago, and it's been fun. And we just gotta keep rolling, see what can happen here towards the end.
Don't tell Scott you're my favorite current coach, of course, but Shoosh is my favorite state player of all time. But don't tell Scott.
Don't tell Scott. Yeah, Seuss was it. That's my brother there. We battled all the time, and then I tore my ACL, and he tore his the next year. So we've always, but he's great, man. He's very we had several guys on that team that were just the nicest human beings off the court. That on the court they were just nasty, And Ilion, Ingenat-Sor, Will Roach, you can throw Will Roach in there. Those guys are like the nicest. I'm talking about the nicest human beings outside of the court. Scott is in that realm too. Like people don't realize that. He knew he could shoot. He was not. People went after him, Joe. People.
Oh no, he's a dog. He's a dog. Don't get me wrong.
They tested him all the time, try to punk him, but he never backed down. And that's why we went on runs. He could hit about 3 threes in a row at any moment. So I never thought we were out of the game with him. So, but it's like I said, been fun, man. Just want to finish this out right, and appreciate you guys' time having me on. I've been watching all the podcasts, and it's been good, man. It's been a fun season so far.
Get to work. We appreciate you taking the time, finish out the regular season the right way, and then Greensboro they promise us to be really fun.
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to that. All right, y'all enjoy the rest of y'all day.
All right, Levi Watkins, NC State assistant coach, former player, our guy. Appreciate him the most. Yes. Scott Wood, take a couple minutes here. We'll talk a little bit about the Carolina game because we haven't had a chance to kind of go through it. And yeah, Jarkel had the 29 points, and really at the end of that game took it over. But Jack Clark hit some big threes. I thought even though it wasn't Terquavion's day, he made some plays that needed to be made. DJ Burns, we had talked about his importance of staying out of foul trouble, staying on the floor. I thought he played Baycott to a standstill, if you will, which was quite different from the game in Chapel Hill. Just some of your thoughts on that win and kind of what it means to this group. Because again, it kind of played out a little bit like we thought it would, in the sense that they just kept plugging away again. It was another one of those games where, I thought they were going to lose. I thought they were going to lose the whole time. And especially when they were down 6, when it's 54-48, I'm going, man, I've seen this one a million times before. But once again, a resilient effort from this group.
Yeah, I mean, even in the first half, it wasn't what I would call a traditional double of Baycott, but they would come all the way across the lane. So when the guard was trying to make the decision whether or not to pass it, there was a body there. So even just that, I think, just kind of changed the dynamic a little bit, going forward, because, Armando was never able to just get going. And then obviously there was the lull, I call it a lull, in the first half where, half court offensively, we just couldn't get anything going. But that was when DJ had picked up another foul, so he was out. But again, they came out of halftime. Again, Levi said it's a game of runs. And that's one of the things as a player that you got to really keep your mind on is, you're going to run into some teams that are really good. They're going to go on an 8-0 run. That's fine. You just got to stop the bleeding at some point, because you're going to have one coming back at them. So it was a lot of fun to watch. I mean, Ernest Ross had a huge block at the end. He only had limited minutes. I think he had 0 points. Well, he ended up making a free throw towards the end of the game.
The missed dunk.
Yeah, and the missed dunk. Oh gosh. But it's just the little things like that. That's the perfect time for a coach to just yank him out of the game after a missed dunk. But he
made the hustle play. Yeah.
Trusts him, gets a huge block. They make a run and they win the game.
Yeah, I think there were, just like this season, there were many different people playing important roles, kind of stepping up when called upon. And I thought, that Jarkel, 29 points, 20 in the second half. I thought the way that Carolina was defending screens in the first half, they were just giving Jarkel and Terquavion too much room to shoot, Baycott in particular. So I thought it was a great adjustment in the second half by Kevin to really give them the green light the way that they did. I thought that was a big key for State in the way that the game played out. And then obviously the atmosphere, that's the one we're used to seeing over at PNC for big games like that. We're talking before the Wake Forest game, but it's a late start for the Wake game. Then they get Clemson at home on Saturday, and then they go to Duke. So no rest for the weary here as they close out the regular season. But I am looking forward to the remaining regular season games and also see if they can get in that top four, if you get in that top four, it avoids having to play 4 games in 4 days. Obviously, that can be done. But with DJ Burns, I think you'd prefer to be in a situation where he is effective and he can play 3 games in 3 days. I think he can do that. I'm not sure he can do 4 and 4 of those guys.
Yeah, I think they'd be all right regardless, but I do think there is something to having more rest, especially in that setting. You're not sleeping in your own bed. There's a lot going on. You got family there that wants to see you after every game, so it's limited rest. So obviously, I think it would be ideal for them to get, that double bye. But at the same time, I think this team's good enough to get hot and go on a run. And I think very similar to what Levi said earlier, I think there's 5 or 6 teams that could legitimately make a run at this thing. Now, obviously, I think Virginia's going to be your front runner, but after that,
Sure.
I think everybody's kind of clipping at the heels, to try and pull this thing off. So there's a lot of good teams that are in the mix that can win this thing.
I think it'll be fun. I think these final 3 regular season games will be interesting as well. NC State has put themselves in a really good position to get back into the NCAA tournament. And again, I know Kevin Keats deserves a lot of that credit, but I thought it was important today to talk to Levi Watkins. He's a guy, you and I both know and behind the scenes have kind of been advocating for. So it's great to see something work out the way that it has this year for both NC State and for Levi. If you missed any of our episodes, you can catch all of them. YouTube, we're posting all of our episodes on YouTube. Go over there, subscribe, do us a favor. Do the subscribe. We need you. We need to work those numbers and catch any episodes on WRALSportsfan.com, Apple, Spotify, the Googles, you name it. We're there. Appreciate everyone who listened last week. We had a very good week last week right here on Pack Therapy. And here's looking to many more.